In this course, we have covered many different type of collection. The collections may be in the form of an array, or it is a form of a set or tree or table and graph, whatever it is there. Now, there is one important aspect which basically I have used, although I did not discuss in details, that how a collection can be viewed. Now, viewing a collection is basically called as a cursoring. Cursoring means how to move from one element in a collection to others. So, regarding these things, Java developers have taken special interest to give many ways to move across the different collections. So, in this lecture we will try to cover about Java cursors, and there are mainly 4 different type of cursors are there. One is called the enumeration interface, the iterator interface, list iterator interface, split iterator interface. In fact, different collections, they basically implements all the interface so that the different way a collection can be traversed. So, we will discuss about the different cursors, and the cursors is basically, as you know, so far this collection is concerned. With collections we have to perform 4 different operations. One is called the create a collection, then read, we have to read the different elements in a collection, update collection if you want to modify, then delete is the removing some elements from the collection. Now, so there are many classes in the Java collection framework which basically with many methods in order to accomplish all these operations. All these operations are together called the CRUD operation. So, there are, in addition to this CRUD operation, this means related to read, insert, delete, move, whatever it is, there are certain operation is required. That operation is related to traversing or visiting each element in the cursor. For this purpose, Java developer introduce a concept. This concept is called Java cursor concept. Now, so far these Java cursors are concerned, there are 4 different type: enumeration, iterator, list iterator, and then split iterator. So, let us learn about each iterators, each cursors individually one by one. As the detailed discussion is really not possible, so I should suggest you to the supplementary material that I have provided at the end of this link, the lecture. There is a link, you can follow this link to get it. Now, let us first come to the discussion of enumeration interface. This interface is basically used to traverse the legacy class, namely vector and hash table. We have discussed about the Java legacy class and it is there. So, enumeration is basically the first iterator, or it is basically the cursor introduced at very beginning in the JDK 1.0. This interface has this is an interface, as you know. So, it does not have any constructor defined in it, but there are methods are there, only 2 methods those are defined. These 2 methods are called has more element. It basically check that if the collection has more elements or not. If it has no elements while it is traversing, then it return false, otherwise it return true, and next element is return the next element that basically currently it is traversing. So, these are the 2 methods by which we can traverse an enumeration of type it is there, and here is an example that you can think about. So, let us see this example that you can use it, and this basically demonstrate the enumeration as a cursor. We can create a vector as a collection object. So, let us create a vector is a collection, and we just add some element into the vector. So, this basically create the vector objects. Now, vector object is created. Now, simply by putting this println statement for this vector v, it basically gives the overall view or whole view of the vector objects, but we want to parse, we want to scan it or rather traverse it one by one, then how it can be done. So, this basically done by creating some elements E of type enumerate E, and that basically elements method which is defined in the vector class can be called. So, either V is a vector, if we call the method elements, then it basically the enumerated, which basically is a traverse form of all the elements those are there in the vector V class. Now, you can recall when we are discussing about the file input output system, there we can use the sequence input stream. There means we can pass the 2 or more files, and then it basically traverse one file at a time, where the file is basically a collection, and then it basically traverse and then concatenate into another third file that we have already checked it, the sequence input stream class, while we are discussing in the discussion of file IO. Now, okay, let us continue this program again. We can create one enumerator for the vector sets, vector collection V, and this is the next part of the program that you can check it here. So, this basically create the enumerator for all the elements V. Now, this enumerator can be traversed. Here is has more elements, that means we just starting from the very beginning of the elements which is there, and then we can just parse it. Here just okay, as the enumerator are the integer of type, so we need to casting it. So, that is why integer is there. So, it basically return the I. So, it next element return the next element in the enumerator list, it basically casted in integer form and then finally print it. So, this will basically print all the elements those are there. So, system.out.println V, and this basically is in this case gives a both same similar output, as you can notice. Okay, so, this is the cursor for the enumeration type, and there are few points that you should note, that it is applicable to collection of only legacy class. We cannot apply this kind of program to other collection like array list or tree list or hash map like this one. And it is basically criticized that it has very long name. Absolutely no issue for this, I believe, because naming is good to understand about it. So, this is some people criticize it. And then in CRUD operation, it supports only read operation, because it cannot, this is the one important thing, that it does not support create, update and delete while traversing. That is one important consideration that you should note, because while traversing only printing may not be good one, but while traversing if we perform certain CRUD operation like creating or some adding some element into it or deleting or updating, then it does not support this kind of iterator or traversers. But there are some other traverser it is possible that can help it, and moreover it only supports forward direction traversing, that is why it is called the unidirection cursor. Okay, let us discuss another another cursor, that is called the iterator cursor, and it is defined as an interface, iterator interface. Whatever the limitation that we have learned so far, the enumeration interface is concerned, it has been addressed into this iterator interface. This interface is in one sense it is called the universal, because this iterator interface can be applied to many collections like set, list, queue, dequeue, and also it can be implemented in the map interface also, that we have already studied and we have exercised while we are discussing all these collections in our previous learning. Now, the peculiarity of this interface is that using this cursor iterator we can perform read and remove operation. However, we will not be able to perform any replace or addition operation. Remove operation is possible, but replace or addition operation is not possible. And let us see how this iterator or cursor you can use in your program. Now, in order to use this cursor, there are three methods that you can rely on. These methods are has next, next and remove. As remove is basically for removing purpose, and has next or next is basically to check that it has further element or not, and if it has, then it return the next element actually. So, let us have some illustration of this interface, and one illustration I gave it to you so that you can understand about it. This program give a quick demo about this cursor iterator, and we create one collection. The name of the collection is array list, is a array list of integer, and we create the array list here using this method. So, this basically this array list contains 10 different elements in it, This is a usual println statement, overall printing of this statement, but we are interested to traverse it using our cursor iterator. So, this is important code that you can think about. We create an iterator, it is always we have to create a iterator object for that. So, this is called for the array list collection. This is the method that we have used, the factory method that you should use to call this iterator. So, this iterator is easy to traverse. Initially it is starting from this one. Now, here has next. So, it takes that it has the element. So, it is basically currently pointing at 0 and then it return the 0th element. So, this is basically integer value, it is there because we have defined for integer collection. So, it return integer and then I store the temporary value, it is what it returns, it store it there and it print it, that is fine. So, this basically traverse each element and print it there. Now, what we are doing here, if I div 2 equals to 0, that means if the number is even, then we just remove it. So, while we are traversing, we are removing it, and then after the entire traversal is over, the array list collection will obtain after removing all the even numbers. So, if we print here, you will see it basically gives the modified array list after removing all the even numbers in this. So, this is one example that you can check that okay, it basically how this cursor work for the collection array list. So, this kind of illustration can be extended to other collection also, which we have already exercised there. I am mentioning how they are basically merits and demerits of it. Now, here is another example, as I have mentioned that this kind of iterator class cannot be used in order to replace or add some new elements. So, this is the one example that you can see for this purpose. This program give a demo while if you want to attempt add some elements or replace some elements while we are traversing using iterator cursor. So, for this purpose let us create a collection of user defined class, say books. Assume that books is already defined somewhere. So, this program assume that books class is declared there, or it can be string also. We can create a collection of string also, fine. Otherwise, if you use the user defined, you can use that also, no issue. So, this basically we create, we insert 3 different elements into this collection books, which is of type string. Now, using for each loop, and you can see for each loop is one also default cursor, basically it also traverse just like while loop, for loop, and this is a for each loop. So, is basically for each object belongs to this collection books, it basically moves or basically visits, it visits means prints, and then while we are doing we can add one object, say this one. So, we can do it also. So, this is possible because we can do usual addition while we are using for. So, it basically each time we can add one elements here, new elements will be added and the collection allows duplicate entries. So, it is possible. Now, let us come to the discussion of the same thing, but using our cursor iterator. Now, this point is interesting to note what it basically does does here. So, we create an iterator for this collection books. So, it check that okay, it is in a starting from this we can do it. Now, it basically start use the new collection here, because in this case the collection will be this plus all these elements are added. So, that also you should note it. So, when you see the output you can get it, but anyway this basically program is to illustrate some limitation of this cursor interface, rather not limitation, it basically is a constant we can say. So, it basically traverse it. So, this is not an issue, this is also fine, it basically traverse, it print also, but whenever it comes here the add method or this replace method, instead of remove we can say replace, it is basically replace method, we can use a replace by is remove C means it is basically replace. So, it basically C is removed. Now, here if you see this basically point out an error, this because it cannot, this iterator cannot it cannot allow you to do addition into while it is traversing. Now this remove is fine, it can do it, but if we replace this method by replace, I mean if you write another call books dot replace C, then C by another string, then you can see it also not permissible. So here you have to be careful about that. This kind of iterator does not allow to add or remove any elements while it basically this iterator works, or it you traverse using this iterator. So this is the only limitation that it can do it. This is just like a enumerator, it always allow you for forward direction only, not that backward direction or to and fro direction. Only read and remove is possible, but no new element can be added in this method. Now here let us consider this list iterator interface. List iterator interface is the another interface which is more smarter interface, what is called the cursor than the other two cursors like enumerator and list interface. Now let us have the methods which are defined here. Now regarding this interface is applicable for any type of list, only applicable for list collection. You can understand list means like array list, linked list and others. So it is basically applicable to linked list structure actually. And here you see all these linked list structures which are mentioned in Java collection framework, they use double linked list. This means that both forward and backward traversal is possible. This means that this cursor allows both bidirectional movement, and it has the same functionality then iterator, means it can remove also while it is traversing. In addition to it has more functionality that we will discuss. Now list iterator interface extend the iterator interface. So all the methods those are declared there is also available to it. In addition to there are 6 more methods which also possible. These are the method as we have already experienced with iterator cursor, also it is applicable. Now let us see what are the additional methods which are defined in this class specially. So these are the methods which are declared here. It basically allows add, whereas the simple cursor iterator cannot allow, and for each remaining also it is allowed here. Has next and we have has previous, it is basically for bidirectional from to and fro, also it is possible. Next method we have already declared. Next index also it basically return, if you want to see the previous element it return what is the previous element, index of the previous element, remove, and set. Here set means it is a basically replace. Now so this iterator compared to the simple cursor iterator provides more functionality and therefore more flexibility to the programmer. So it supports more flexibility, that is why many people, but only it has a limitation that it cannot be applied to all cursor except the array list, linked list cursor you can apply it. Now let us consider this is an example that we can apply. So we create a collection, let it be array list and add some elements. So initially the collection is loaded. Now we are using one iterator, this is the iterator, has next, and this is basically simple using our cursor iterator. Now we can apply the same, okay, for the same purpose we can apply the list iterator method also. Here we are using for the same collection the list iterator. So for which this method needs to be called on this collection, this is the iterator, and here we are traversing. It is basically same, but here you see at the time of iterator we basically can replace elements. So we are replacing here this one. So this is allowed, it will not give any error. And also you see we can have some backward, for this backward we can call has previous and then is the previous element. So from back to front direction also we can move it. So both way direction this interface can allow you. So this basically shows that how it is more advantageous than the other cursor that we have discussed about it. So this is more useful cursor than the other two cursors, namely enumeration and then iterator that we have covered. Now there is one more example. It is basically called the cycling through a collection using for each loop. So this example tells about that how the cycling can be. Cycling means if you want to end, it can go to the previous and actually cyclic in nature. So this is the one array list collection, and here using for each you can just see and come to whenever you go, it will basically go to the end actually, and then again if you this basically calculate the different values of this one integer v vals, and then result is basically print and it basically repeat this one. So here use for loop to display the value, here use the same loops to add the value of the each interface. So you can cyclic it because we have started it and again come back to 0 and then you can do it. So cycling, and using list iterator also you can do the cycling, that is also possible. Now what we can summarize from the previous discussion is that the enumerator interface one way, then cursor iterator, that is also one way. Cursor iterator on the contrast to enumerator, it can allow certain CRUD operation, namely remove, but it cannot allow add and then replace operation, whereas the list iterator can be in two ways and allows all sort of modified operation that is possible. Now this basically is an example of list iterator with respect to vector. Okay, let us see vector, the legacy class vector, we can have the enumeration set for this. So here basically this is the iterator reference of different types of the same collection. I want to see how for the same collection the different iterator can be called. Here we can see the vector has some collection, list iterator is an cursor, iterator cursor, enumeration cursor. We want to apply all these three cursor on the vector collection. Now vector is one element, vector is the one collection which basically list iterator also supports, okay, in addition to array list and linked list, vector also, because vector store in a dynamic position, so it can also. Now this example shows on the vector how it can be applied. So it is enumeration E, iterator this one, and then we can apply list iterator over the vector V, and here we can apply on the enumerator, and here we can apply on the iterator. Then we can use whatever the way we can iterate, for each iterator you can traverse it. So this example shows that this iterator, the three different iterators that we have learned can be applied to the same. That is okay, it's obvious of course, but only in the context of vector it can be applied. Now there are certain limitations of the list iterators that we want to discuss about it. The limitations is that it this iterator is not thread safe, that is the one, but it is the powerful iterator, but only it is applicable to list that we have told. In addition to this, vector also can be, and that is why this can be considered as a more useful iterator. Now this iterator also can be applied to user defined object as a collection, and here we can define one object of one class we are defining. The name of the class is employee, and this is the usual definition with constructor, getter and setter methods. Now let us first discuss the class declaration, and then we will come to the creation of a collection of these objects and then iterator over it. So this basically completes the declarations of class. Then here we just create, you see, we want to make this employee class so that it is iterable. That is one important thing that you have to, then only you can iterate over it. And we create a collection, we can create a collection, is basically list type. So employee, initially it is learn, then we can create some objects of it and add into this collection employee. So this employee then contains so many objects with this one. Now you can again use the map also, there you can use it, and then do it, but anyway we are discussing this thing in the context of simple list. So, list is an interface for which we are using basically is a collection as a array list here. So, array list is a collection whose type is list because it is an interface, because array list implements the list. So, that is how you can do that. So, this basically essentially employee is a collection of array list, and the array list contains few objects which are here. Now, let us see how we can iterate over these objects. So, I want to say that this iterator can be applied to any type of elements in the collection, and if you want to apply your user defined, then you have to implement the iterable. That is the only thing that you have to do it, then only you can apply, otherwise you will not be applied. Now, here you can, if you want, then you can override this iterator method according to your own customization. So, basically we are just overwriting this customization. Then in this method we are just using either for which loop or a simple cursor iterator or list iterator you can apply to traverse all the elements here. It is now possible. If you do not implement using this one, you will not be able to do that. That is what I want to mention in this example. So, you can test it and you can do certain modifications, so that whether it works or not, then you will be able to realize that how these things works. Now, let us come to the split iterator, which is the another what is called the new addition of the Java from the Java development kit. It is called the split iterator. It is just like other Java cursor to traverse the element of a collection, but only difference is that like other collection, it basically allow parallel traversing, and all parallel traversing in a sequential manner. So, it is basically if you want to split a list and then traverse all these lists in a parallel fashion, then this cursor you can use it. That is why its name is split iterator. It basically comes from splitting and iterator. So, this way it basically allows parallel traversing. So, it was introduced recently in JDK 8 and defined via an interface is called the split iterators interface. Then it implements in all other collection classes, those are basically defined there. So, compared to the other cursor, it has substantially more functionality, it gives more utility functions, we can say. The most important aspect of split iterator is ability to provide support for parallel processing, that is why it is used, and otherwise it basically does the same thing as the other iterator does it, and you can again repeat all the programs or illustrative program that we have given in the context of this iterator, then you can get its advantages. Okay, so this is about the different other extra method by which you can apply to this split iterator and you can get it. Here we have mentioned few method is a characteristics. So, it returns the specific properties of the iterator that it can return, and there are few method, estimate size, all these things is basically regarding parallel traversal, all those things is required. Those description you can have it from here and you can practice it in your program and calling these methods, and then you can get it, and then you see that it basically it has more powerful features than the other three cursors that we have discussed. So, applying these things is very similar. As an example I have given here, it basically does not give that much flavor because it is only few elements are there. If it is a large element and then split it and then apply on each portion, then you will be able to see that how it works better. So, that you can try with another program. Here we have done the same thing actually. Here we basically split it, and then on each splitting part we can call this, and then how it work, it is there. And here we again using, in addition to split iterator, we are using for each with lambda expression also to print it. So, it basically in that sense it can be combined with the own iteration, in addition to other iteration also it can be mixed. That means it is basically hybrid cursorization, it can be possible with this one. So, this example basically shows how it is possible that the split iterator can be combined with for each or for each remaining portion it is. And there are some other methods which we have listed there and how they can be exercised. This program basically illustrates this concept. You can run this program and you can check that how the parallel traversing is possible with this cursor, the split iterator. So, this program you can run it and you can check that how the different features of the split iterator can be enjoyed in a program. So, this basically has that two methods specially very important in this iterator is called the try, advance and accept. Here it try, advance basically perform an action on the next element and then advance the iterator. Whatever the performance means is addition, removal or modification, whatever you can do that, and it can also allow you to perform another extra operation. It is a generic functional interface declared in java.util function. One method is called the abstract method. It is for implementing any action of your own that you want to do on a particular collection. So, that action accept method you can override and then accordingly you can customize whatever the method during your collection that you want to have. So, these are the two important features, that is basically advanced features by which you can enjoy much more while you are traversing a collection. Okay, so these are the different cursor that we have discussed. Here is another example showing the illustration of try advance method, that you can check that how it basically do some activity while it is traversing, basically addition, removal and all these operations that we have mentioned here. You can generate random number, you can add some into it, all those things you can do it. And then accept method is okay, you can overwrite it and then customize this method so that you can get it. And as I told you, split iterator is good, that okay, it can be combined with other iterator in addition to this also. And for many more more detailed discussion, I have already stopped with some more supplementary materials here. So, I should advise you to go through, and this is the one document that you can think about, so that you can learn much more about from this one. And so, this is the end or the last video lectures. I want to acknowledge behind the different the contribution, the different people that I got during the whole process. So, it was a very long journey. I started the preparation of this course 2 years back. As you can see, there are many materials are involved, including the slides and then contents, then web link and so many things are there. So, it was a huge job from us. There are many people who supported, and here are the pillars we can say behind this course, and Dr. Mona Lisa here, who helped me to prepare the content in an exhaustive manner. So, you can see how the coverage of the different topics. There are many books available related to the Java data structure, but no books covered the data structure in that sense which basically require, which we have taken enough effort so that the essence of data structure using Java program can be obtained. This is really a novel effort from our side. So, Dr. Mona Lisa has helped me to prepare many materials in this regard, and then content is enriched with her contribution. And another people who helped me a lot preparing particularly the slides is Nilanjan. So, you can see so much slides, although many mistakes, errors are there. Definitely it is our limitations, we could not correct so many errors are there, but we have tried our best to do as much as error free as possible. Now, you have also experience with many programs related to the different discussion. So, here Subhrashankar helped me a lot. So, whenever I need some programs to be tested or some relevant program or some program is required relevant to a particular discussion, so he always came forward and then supported with programs. And regarding the content management and particularly web link and other preparation, HTML document, you can find the link that I have given. So, here Priyabrata helped me a lot. So, these are the help that I cannot really, okay, no appreciation is enough to tell thanks anyway. So they are the main pillar, and other than many people also directly indirectly, they are most of my students help me, and then I really obey my most sincere gratitude to them. And there are many thanks to other people, particularly NPTEL staff. All the lecture video recording you see, we have done it during this lockdown period. It is really very trying time, very difficult situation because of that COVID pandemic. So there are many NPT, those are the people basically helped me a lot, and then they took their life in risk and then come to this recording studio and then help me. Really, they are very sincere. I really thanks to Vibhangshu, Ramu, Saurabh, Priyanka, Uttam for their genuine service and their disciplined work and systematic way, so that this recording is possible today. Thank you very much. First of all, next I want to give the thank you to all of you who attended this course and forwarded your suggestion, feedback, and my effort, my whatever the labor that I have put, that if I think is success only if I see that it really helps you to learn the concept better. With these things I want to conclude it. Thank you very much and wish you all the best and fun of reading and learning this concept. Thanks a lot.